Just by way of introduction, when I became city manager almost 5 years ago now, I made a commitment to get out to the neighborhood groups on a regular basis to talk about issues facing the city and hopefully get some feedback from the neighborhood residents as well. So, and I think we've pretty much been able to do that. I tend to come out 2 to 3 times a year. Mike Damaris, of course, is here every meeting. Henry's often here. We always have someone from the police department, but I think it's important as city manager that I get out as well. And in the spring, I tend to get out to talk about, mostly about the finances, which is what I'm here to do tonight. I do want to recognize Councilors Joe Mendonca and Patrick Murphy, who are back here as well, I could skip this tonight and just let Mike do it, because poor Mike has sat through this presentation about 6 times now. So, but anyway, he'll let me. Yeah, he is paid. Let me go through this a little bit just to give you sort of a sense of where we are with the city finances, because I think it's important as residents and taxpayers you understand the issues that the city is facing when it comes to its budget and its finances. When we do a budget, let me give you a little bit more introduction on that. A budget isn't something that's just done, one time of the year. It's May, so let's put the budget together and leave it at that. Actually, the budget process is one that goes on continually and takes in a very long period of time, the budgets that we do. We just finished closing out fiscal year 2010, which ended last June 30th. We're currently implementing fiscal year 2011, which ends this June 30th. We're preparing to present to the City Council in June the fiscal year 2012 budget, which will start July 1st. But in fact, we're already working on the budgets for fiscal years 13, 14, 15, and 16. We look forward. We do forecasting. So that when we make decisions as a city administration, or when we go to the City Council and we say, we propose that we do this, that we settle this union contract or we borrow money to do a project, that we can tell the City Council, or we can tell the residents what this is going to cost, what this type of impact this is going to have on the budget. You don't want to get into a situation where you're making a decision assuming money will be there when in fact it won't. Now, this isn't a perfect science. No one would have seen really what happened in 2008 with the economy. We had an inkling of some things, and we reined in hiring, we reined in expenses, but nowhere near what ended up being the devastating effect it had upon the nation, the state, and the city in terms of our revenue. So forecasting is very important. We do that. It's also, though, important, and I think it's what I'm going to spend a little bit of time on beginning tonight, to look at trends. What has happened over the last 5 or 10 years? What direction is the city heading? There are tools that help communities do this. We didn't buy any of those tools. There's one that's put out by the City Managers Association. There's one put out by the National League of Cities. Very complex computer modeling that you can do. We didn't see a need to do that. We know what the trends are that are important to us that we want to look at. And they can tell us, are we heading in the right direction? Because if we're not heading in the right direction, well, let's turn around. Let's pull out of this. Or let's take the corrective actions to fix it. So I'm going to spend the beginning tonight to talk about the trends that we're seeing, to give the context of what the administration is looking at, but also the context in which the City Council, I think, needs to look at the city's finances to say, are we doing the right things and what should we do differently? Oops, hold on. The trends that we do see over the last number of years, 5 to 10 years, and I will go through this as quickly as possible, and then I'll take questions, but it does take a little, this show does take a little bit of time. We'll get you out by the 4th inning, of the Red Sox. Declining state aid. Now I'm going to have charts that show this. I'm just going through these quickly. We all know that the state has lost about $4 billion in tax revenue over the last 3 to 4 years. They've made cuts in state aid. So the city of Lowell, which depends heavily upon money coming in from the state, has lost a lot of money. Free cash reserves. Free cash reserves, this is sort of our savings account, if you will, here in the city. Those were used extensively in the early 2000s, and I have a graph that will show this to you. That kept, in many respects, that kept taxes artificially low. We like being able to hold taxes down, but when it's done in a way that isn't thought out as carefully as it should be, it can be very dangerous for a community. And that's what the city of Lowell has run into in the past. And that money's gone, as you'll see in a second. We see an increase in our fixed costs, particularly in our health insurance. Everybody knows about the problems of health insurance, so I don't have to talk to you too much about that, but we've seen it go up dramatically here in the city. And then we also have the other big fixed cost item we have is pensions, and I'll talk a little bit about that. We've lost positions. We've eliminated a number of jobs. We've cut our workforce on the non-school side, the city side, by about 12%. And most of that has come from the non-public safety departments. So when you take out those two big departments of some 450 to 500 people, when you talk about eliminating 120 people out of the rest of city government, it can be very devastating. But it has had a financial impact on us on the positive side. On the service side, we can talk about that. We have increased net school spending. In other words, we've put more money into our educational system, and we've increased our reserves, which runs counter to the second point there about reserves being down. But it's because we saw that trend happening, and over the last 3 years, we took action with the support of the City Council to reverse that trend. Let's talk about state aid. And don't worry about the numbers. Hopefully you can see this all the way in the back. The net state aid, this is actually a very interesting graph. Very interesting numbers that we see on this. The purple, if you can see that color, the higher line there, is the amount of money that goes to the schools. In 1990, and I don't go all the way back to 1990 in many of these, or any other of these charts, but in 1990, the amount of money that the state gave the city of Lowell for schools was right about $22 million. Today, in fiscal year 2012, it's going to be about $122 million. So they've increased that by $100 million. The big jump took place in 1993. It was about flat from 90 to 93, and then it started up, because that's when the state decided they wanted to put money into education. A very worthwhile goal, no doubt about it, and we need the resources. The idea here was the state was going to give resources like this to cities like Lowell and to help them with their school system, because there wasn't enough resources going into that. They also put requirements that cities and towns spend more of their own money on education and document that. And I'll talk about that in a second as well. But that's what's gone on. $100 million more for education. The rest of state aid is a far different picture. In 1990, the state gave the city about $27, $28 million in aid for other purposes of local government. Police, fire, public works, library, health, senior center, all of that. About $27, $28 million. Today in 2012, it's $11 million.